Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nik Athirah, and in this second commentary video, I was given a task which needs me to choose two heroes who have made a significant contribution to a particular field and discuss the similarity or differences of their experience and background, particularly at the aspect of social stratification in their community of origin. So, what is social stratification? Stratification is a structured ranking of entire groups of people that perpetuates unequal economic rewards and power in a society. So the two heroes that I have chosen is Ludwig van Beethoven and also Friedrich Chopin. So let's start by knowing who is these two. These two is we started with Ludwig van Beethoven. Ludwig van Beethoven is a Germanist pianist and also composer, which was known as one of the greatest musical geniuses of all the time. He also known for creating masterpiece when he was deal with his deafness, and due to this he also able to create and widen the scope of sonata, symphony, concerto and quartet. So for the Friedrich Chopin, he is a Polish composer who was known as a child prodigy when he was back at 7 years old. That time he created a complex composition of music which quite a wonder for such a young age. So how can these two have the similarity and differences of their experience that can affect their social stratification in the community? So let's start it with form of stratification. So for these both people, they come from a different social class, if I would like to say. It is because for Beethoven, he had two younger brother, and for his mother, named Maria Magdalena van Beethoven, was a slender, gentle and deeply moralistic woman. But somehow his father, Johann van Beethoven, was a mediocre court singer, but he is not known for the musical ability, but he was famous for alcoholism. So however, for Beethoven, he most likely have pride on his grandfather, which was known as Kapellmeister Ludwig van Beethoven, which was a proprious and eminent musician at that time. And for Chopin, his father Nicholas was a French emigre who worked as a bookkeeper, and when he met his spouse Justina Krizanovska, so he finally found a job as a tutor for aristocratic family in Warsaw. So Chopin was introduced to the music field due to his mother at an early age. So by age 6, he was able to play piano and composing tunes. So it is quite a talent for him, who is not a music background family. So somehow that was how the stratification was formed. So next is about the class consciousness. Both of them come from different class of consciousness, which according to Karl Marx, there is two type of them, which is bourgeoisie and proletariat. For Beethoven, he come from a bourgeois family, class of consciousness, which means they own their own means of productions. And for Frederick Chopin, he come from a working class, which his father needs work as a tutor in order to help them survive in the daily life. So that was how these two have different class consciousness, because for Beethoven, he had his father who works as a musician that have a large amount of salary to help them survive in their daily life. So next, in first consciousness of these two in the social stratification, perhaps for Beethoven, he was not a famous composer to start, because he started as a pianist and he does not create such a significant masterpiece at this time. And by the time he reached an middle age, he struggled a lot with his deafness, and however, during his 10 years of lifespan, that he was able to create this masterpiece. Moving on to the next category, which is status. These both person have a similar status, which is achieved status. So for Beethoven, he was forced by his father to learn music, and after the death of his father, he started to work as assistant court organist in order to support his family, which means that these two have to achieve have to work hard in order to achieve their dreams. And for Frederick Chopin, due to his talent was discovered by his parents, then these two parents sent him to learn and polish his piano skill first. Then after he was able to overcome his own tutor, then the parents sent him to Vienna so that he will be able to broaden his musical experience and gain more knowledge in order for him to create a better music for other people. So for the prestige, this both was known as a composer, mostly for the composer, but for Beethoven, he was first known as a pianist, but when he was back at the end, when he was struggling with his deafness, at this time he started to making his career into a next level, which is he become a composer. So due to the next category that we have, it is called an esteem, which what is these two were known for. So basically, Beethoven was known as a musical genius of all the time, other than Mozart. So mostly Beethoven most accomplished masterpiece and work that he have was created after he went deaf. So this means that he is a musical genius because he was able to create such music when he lost his sense of listening and hearing. So this is what makes him such a musical genius. And for Frederick Chopin, he was known as a child prodigy, which is quite different from Beethoven, because he was known and he was famous when he was at the early age of a person, when he was back at 7 years old, I guess. He was known for starting composing compact musical pieces, and this somehow attract the interest and spark the interest in his parents, that they had to send their children to polish more of his skill. So for the their socio-economic status, both have this similar socio-economic status, which is they come from an upper class man, which because for Beethoven he was known as a family background, which has a family background in terms of music, which made him already known and famous. For Frederick Chopin, he was an upper class man because his father was a tutor for aristocratic family, so which means that he gained a lot of his incomes when he become the father. The father gains a lot of income when he becomes the tutor for that specific family. And for the poverty, both of them were wealthy, so there is no kind of poverty found in these two families. And also life chances. For this last life chances is Beethoven have more bright life chances and advantages better than Frederick Chopin, because he was actually ahead of Chopin, because he was able to create such music when he was deaf, which make him another level from Chopin, who still have his sensory, all of his sensory, but somehow Frederick Chopin has a disadvantages because of his style of music. His style of music does not reciprocate those audiences at that time, so that is why he has life chances in advantages. Moving on to social mobility, these two have different social mobility, which for Beethoven he has an upward, and for Frederick he has a downward. It is because for Beethoven, from being a child who was abused by his father, he was abused because his father wants him to learn more about music. But somehow, after he went through all those abuse, due to all these abuses, somehow Beethoven managed to compose himself and become the most famous and musical geniuses of all the time. So this is how the social mobility helped him in becoming such a influenced person. So for Chopin, since he was known as a child prodigy at a very young age, he managed to polish his talent by traveling and learning a lot from his tutor. And somehow when he come to perform at these other countries, he realized that his music of style does not capture the heart of the audiences. So due to this, he had a lot of time and struggling to keep on doing what he was doing. And due to this, audiences who was being exposed to magnificent works such as from Franz Schubert and Ludwig van Beethoven, so he ended up to take another path when he became a music teacher in Paris. And during this hour, he managed to compose his famous pieces such as Mixture of Op. 99. So in terms of stratification, these both have a different stratification, I believe. It is because for Beethoven he has an open system where he managed to create and change the society. He has composed a variety of composition that have the mix of vocals and instrumental. So somehow this create another level in the music industry. And also he managed to widen the scope of sonata, symphony, concerto, and quartet. And on top of that, he managed to create such pieces who were surrounded and influenced by classical and romantic genre, which is quite rare at that time. So for Chopin side, he's more likely into the closed system because he is a person who turns his focus in music more into the piano composition instead of creating another ways or another I would say like path for these musical people to follow, and somehow due to this he become a person who only focuses on this piano composition only, and he try not to become a person who perform his pieces in front of many audiences. This is due to because he believe that his delicate of style does not fit the people at that moment. Due to this, he backed off from his path as a composer and started to become a music teacher at the end. So that is how I was managed to find that these both have differences and similarity in terms of their experiences and their involvement in this field. So I would believe to say that Beethoven has a lot more contribution, and he struggled a lot in his life more than Chopin, who had it a little bit easier because he chose another path at the end. So that is all for today. Thank you.